Thank you very much. I haven't played that song in years, but during the sound check today, I was inspired to play that, and Raj came over to me and said, man, that's his favorite song. So Raj, thank you for putting that out in the universe, because that's such a beautiful thought, the thought about there's a place over the rainbow where everything is beautiful and everything is lovely. And my events are called A Portal Between Heaven and Earth, and I have done 542 of these events before today. And does anybody know what today's number is? Great, great. I just want to make sure you're listening. And I actually found out what was possible spiritually by coming to my own events. I'll tell you what I mean by that. I grew up in Brooklyn. It's where they invented crime, in case you were wondering. And nobody talked about channeling or out-of-body experiences when I was growing up. And after I had sold 1 million CDs into the spa industry and into the gift industry, I started to do meditation events to promote my book that was published in 2014 called Channeling Harrison. And the unique thing about this is I didn't believe in channeling. So in order to get me, for the universe to get me to believe in channeling, they had to really convince me with what I call evidential channeling, with things that were set up in my life in a way that I could have never set these things up on my own. And eventually, I started to believe a little bit more in channeling. And when I started to do these events in 2014, I would show pictures that I'm going to show in my workshop today at 12:30. And I would talk for about a half hour. I would share experiences that other people had had at my events. And then I would guide people in meditation. And then after the meditation was over, I asked, would anybody like to share their experiences? And at my very first event in 2014, a woman in the front row on the right raised her hand. She said, my grandmother appeared to me. She looked so happy. She looked very much younger than she looked when she translated to the next level. And she took me all around heaven and connected me to my relatives that I haven't seen since I'm a little girl. And they were all having a big party. There was food on a table. She was Italian, so there was wine everywhere. And she said, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Now, can you imagine hearing that for the first time and sitting in front of an audience of 30 people and hearing that for the first time? So what we're taught to say when somebody shares is, thank you very much for sharing. Would anybody else like to share? And so a woman on the other side of the room shared that her mom showed up to her, and it was the same story. She looked much younger than she remembered her looking. Her eyes were sparkling, and she took her all around heaven, connected her to her loved ones. And I was thinking, like, can you believe 2 people in a row just shared this? And it was 2014. Now in 2025, it's normal for us to talk about channeling and reconnecting with our loved ones. This is normal. It's a part of our world, you know. But when it was first starting, it really sounded way out of my mental comfort zone because I had never had one of those experiences myself. And so every event that I did, there were always people who were sharing these experiences. And one of the things that I found out was that when 2 of these instruments are played at one time, the 2 instruments create what's called a tri-harmonic tone, because these 2 are going to sound like there's 3 instruments when I'm playing 2. So I'll show you what I mean. That's clearly one note, right? But when I play these together, you're going to hear something that sounds like zzz. Can you hear that? When I put the reverb on, it's a little clearer. So guess what I found out? I found out that that frequency is the same frequency that people experience when they have near-death experiences. How did I find that out? I was doing an event, and during the sound check, there was a young man who was running the sound equipment who was about 40 years old. That's interesting that I said he's a young man. I'm 64, so now I guess I'm allowed to call a 40-year-old guy a young man. Okay. And so he was weeping at the soundboard during the sound check. And so I went over to him and I said, "What's up? Why are you crying?" And he said, "I had a near-death experience. And the closest thing I ever heard to the sound that I heard in that tunnel was the music you just played in the sound check." And eventually I started playing music at all the conferences for the International Association of Near-Death Studies. That's also known as IANDS. And it was a very welcoming audience to me, because people who've had a near-death experience have experienced that frequency, and it's a very hard thing to put into words. What is that frequency, you know? Now, I'd like to ask you guys a question, because I know the answer of this question. About 40 years ago, they started counting all the people who are having near-death experiences by the nurses and doctors in the hospitals, who, when somebody woke up from a coma or from an accident, the first person they spoke to was their nurse or doctor at the hospital. Now, would anybody like to take a wild guess how many people over the last 40 years have told their near-death experience to their nurse or doctor that ended up in their medical records? So would anybody like to take a guess? 1 million, okay. Anybody else want to take a guess? 0? Who said 0? Okay. No. Let me see all the hands that said 0. Okay. Well, you're close. It's 20 million people. 20 million people who look just like us woke up in a hospital after having that near-death experience and shared that with their nurse or doctor. That became part of their medical records. Now, this is an interesting thing, because there are nurses of various religions who are nurses, and these nurses have their own spiritual and religious beliefs. So if somebody is, let's say, a nurse who's Jewish, and she has a client, a patient that's Jewish, and this person wakes up from their coma or from their operation and says that Mother Mary appeared to them, and they don't understand why Mother Mary appeared to them, because they're Jewish. Okay? So the unique thing about this is that people from every religion, if there's 20 million Americans who've had this experience, there's 1 million Jewish people, 4 million Christian people, 2 million Hindu people. People of every religion are all describing that tunnel with the same words in 20 million medical records. Now, so many people have had an experience where they're out of their body. Like, let's say, for example, somebody had a car accident. They're in their car. When the other car is about to hit them, all of a sudden they're out of their body. They're up looking down at the whole thing like they're watching a movie, because their soul, their spirit, has been separated from their physical body. And the natural first instinct people have when that happens is to fly. Now, how many people have had one of those flying dreams here? All right, a couple more than what we had on the first question. The reason why those flying dreams happen is because sometimes when we're dreaming, our soul realizes that our physical body is in bed at home, and that we're separated from our body that's in the bed. And the natural thing that our soul does is to fly. The natural way we move in this physical world is to walk. The natural way we move in the heavenly world, that's also known as dreamland, is to fly. So, millions of people who have had near-death experience are describing that they start to fly. It feels like they're Superman or Superwoman or super whatever, now that we're in 2025, right? And eventually they get to this tunnel. And there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And the closer they get to this light at the end of the tunnel, the more euphoric the energy is, the more powerful the energy is. And what most people think is that all that energy is coming from God. Eventually, they get to the light, and when they get to the light, their first instinct was to think, I must be in heaven. So if I'm in heaven right now, I wonder if I'm going to see my mom or my grandmother. And a second later, their mom or their grandmother appears to them. Or they could have the thought, I must be in heaven now, and if I'm in heaven, I wonder if I'm going to see Buddha or Jesus or Moses or Mother Mary or any of the goddesses or whoever they thought of. An instant later, they appeared to them. And that is because there is a difference between the heavenly dimension and the physical dimension. In our physical dimension, our thoughts are different than our reality. Like you may have a thought, oh, I need to get my book from the car. So in this physical reality, you walk. Each step takes about a second. And let's say it takes you 5 minutes to get to your car, and you get your book out of your car. But in the heavenly dimension, whatever we think is manifesting instantly in real time. So I'd like you guys to repeat after me. In the heavenly dimension, my thoughts manifest instantly as reality. Let's try that one more time for good luck. In the heavenly dimension, my thoughts manifest instantly as reality. And so what that means is whoever we think of while we're in the heavenly dimension instantly appears to us. It doesn't matter if that person is appearing to 2 people, 20 people, 20,000 people, or 20 million people, because our thoughts manifest instantly as reality. And the heavenly dimension is not linear the way this physical world is linear. Like we have this certain thing that's called common sense, and we also have a thing that's called normal. Now, normal changes because 500 years ago, it was normal for people to think that the world was flat. You could actually be put in jail for saying the world was round, and that's what happened to Galileo. But the thing is normal changes because our reality and our perception of reality changes. We're not the same people we were 10 years ago or 40 years ago. And so these people who have had these near-death experiences, when they come back from that near-death experience, they never look at life the same because they've seen the other reality. Now, many people who have had near-death experiences share that when they ended up in the heavenly dimension, it was like waking up from a dream, and the physical world was the dream. Like, you know when we wake up from a dream and we go, oh, thank God that was just a dream? Well, in the heavenly dimension, because the vibration is so much higher and so much more beautiful, it feels like this physical world was the dream. What'd you say? Well, I don't want to call it a nightmare, but you know, the physical world has its ups and downs. You know, we can have amazing experiences and all kinds of experiences here. So what most people think is that the tunnel is filled with all of God's love, and that's partially true. Because if you had an hourglass, and this is the bottom of the hourglass, and this is the top of the hourglass, you know how the sand goes back and forth between the hourglasses? But you know that little area between the two hourglasses, the top one and the bottom one, you know that little area where the sand goes through? You know what that is? That's the tunnel everybody talks about in their near-death experiences. And the reason why there's so much love in that tunnel is because all of our loved ones are waiting for us on the other side of the tunnel. It's their love that we're feeling because they are made aware that we are coming for a visit or coming for long term. Okay? So on this note, I'd like you guys to all close your eyes, and I'm going to play the flute for a little bit so you guys can just sail off and just allow whatever images are going to come into your head that you'd like. And whenever you're ready, you guys can open up your eyes. Did anybody see anything they did not expect to see? Because the biggest question people have when they meditate is, how do I know it's not my imagination making all this stuff up? If you were surprised at the image that appeared in your inner vision, then you can be sure you didn't make it up, because you wouldn't be surprised, right? I used to be a heavy metal guitar player. I really did. I know it may sound hard to believe at this moment. But I used to play in an AC/DC tribute band from 1980 till 1982. My mom was so proud. Okay. So this is a song that I wrote with one of George Harrison's friends. It's been a long time, such a long time, since I had nothing on my mind, and I could just be. I could just be. I could just be. I could just be. I took the long way down this highway, and I realize today, yeah, I could just be. I could just be. I could just be. I could just be. Took the long way down this highway, and I realize today I could just be. Thank you so much.